Hi there, it's Jen from modernmedicinelady.com and the Empathic Woman System, and the word of the day is lazy. So, I grew up in a culture where being called lazy was a really big insult, and it was definitely something that I realized at a pretty early age I did not want to be called. And I knew that being lazy was something you wanted to avoid at all costs. So, I tried my best. But at the same time that this was going on, I was also a highly sensitive, empathic, and intuitive, and very emotional little kid. And so a lot of times I was just completely overwhelmed because I was picking up on a lot of the thoughts and the feelings and the pain and the energy and the everything of the world that was going on around me. And I didn't understand that this was going on. I didn't have any tools for dealing with this. I didn't know what was mine and what was somebody else's. I just knew that most of the time I was stressed out, that I was overwhelmed, and that I was in a state of conscious anxiousness. And I didn't know anything else. So there's a thing that happens for most human beings, which is that we either, when we're in a state of stress, we either fight, we flee, or we freeze. You've heard it's fight, flight, or freeze. Now, I was not much of a fighter, at least with most people. I mean, certainly with my little brother and sister, sometimes I'd get into fights, but I wasn't much of a fighter as a little kid. I really didn't have those skills, and I didn't really know how to stick up for myself. I also wasn't much of a runner or a fleer. It didn't occur to me that I could run away. I certainly wouldn't have been playing hooky. And so I was pretty much left with a third option, which was when I hit my wall, when I got to a place where I was too overwhelmed and too overcome with the intensity of everything going on around me, I would essentially freeze. And so what I found was that as a child, when I was starting to process information, if there was too much going on around me, if I was too distracted, if I was already like hearing the little kids in the back of the room, talking behind me, I wasn't going to be able to follow the rules that the teacher had for me. And instead, a lot of times what would happen would be that I would just freeze. So from the outside, the teachers would look at me and think, oh, she's just being lazy. And so as a little kid, I often heard things like, oh, she's so smart, if only she would apply herself. Or if only you would work a little bit harder at these things, then I'm sure you would be able to understand exactly what's going on. And the problem was that the teachers were imagining that the reason I wasn't doing stuff was because I was deliberately and willfully choosing not to, and that if I only applied myself more, things would be fine. Whereas the reason I wasn't doing it was because I didn't have any bandwidth left. I didn't have the spoons to deal with anything else. And the way my mind worked, there were some things that I was able to understand completely and very, very easily. And then there were other things that when I was a little kid just did not compute. And when they did not compute, I would just kind of shut down. And so if there was something I liked and I enjoyed doing it and it was easy for me to do it, then sure, I would do it. But when there were things that I just could not register, what would end up happening would be that it was like my computer just froze, and I would just be like in this state of like couldn't deal with it, couldn't do it, didn't know how to do it. Now, the thing is that I basically bought this message because it was what I was taught and what I was told, that the reason I wasn't doing stuff was because I was being lazy. And what's fascinating to me is how much that message has driven my bus, how much that interpretation of my behavior has influenced the way that I have moved forward in my life. Now, in some ways, it's actually been a good thing because it has made me extremely motivated and has actually driven me to do a lot of stuff because I have been a fairly ambitious person in my life. But the hard part of it is that it started on a lie, and it started with something where I never really was lazy. I just didn't have the resources to do what the teachers wanted me to do. Now, the paradox of this is that what I have noticed is that many of us who are highly sensitive and empathic, those of us who are creative, those of us who are intuitive, those of us who approach life in a really different way, some people might call us weird, some people might call us artists, some people might call us musicians, but those of us who are kind of outside of the norm, a lot of times we learn in a really different way. And as kids, we don't follow rules. And I think that it's not uncommon for us to be told that we're not applying ourselves and that we're being lazy. The irony of this is that as adults, it's often this ability to think outside the box and the fact that a lot of times, because we couldn't do things the way the teachers wanted us to do it, we had to find workarounds and we had to find different ways to get there, that actually we are more innovative, we are more creative, and we are more capable of doing all kinds of things now, that if we had just been able to follow the rules and do what the teachers wanted us to do as kids, maybe we wouldn't be where we are today. I certainly believe that that is the case for me. So in many ways, this is one of those things where there's a whole lot to it, and some of it is really a blessing, and some of it is more of a challenge. But my question to you right now is, if you are a highly sensitive and creative, intuitive, empathic person, and particularly if you're somebody who as a kid had a hard time following rules and had a hard time doing what people wanted you to do, how much does the labeling that you took on as a little kid, and if you were called lazy or told that you weren't applying yourself, how does that impact you now? Do you notice that it drives you to go above and beyond? Do you notice that sometimes it maybe gives you unrealistic expectations of what you think you should be doing? Does it still ping some guilt inside of you if you think that you're not doing enough? So I would love to hear what you have to say about all of this. Please leave a comment below, and until next word of the day, I am wishing you peace, I'm wishing you ease, and I am wishing you freedom from the tyranny of false labeling, especially around being lazy. So in the meantime, please go subscribe to my YouTube channel, Jennifer Moore, Modern Medicine Lady, and also I will be eternally grateful for your help to get this video out into the world. Please like it, please share it, and please pass it along to other people who would find it useful. Thank you so much, and until tomorrow, peace.